We've all been in meetings like this. Someone raises their hand and asks, could we get some coffee in here? Could someone refresh the dry erase pens? Could someone take care of the quiet, invisible work that just keeps things moving throughout our days? These tasks matter to the organization, but they rarely matter to anyone's career. And the curious thing, as Laurie Weingart has spent years documenting, is that these tasks don't fall randomly. They fall along familiar lines, shaped by norms people barely notice. Howard Teibel sat down with Laurie, Carnegie Mellon professor and co-author of The No Club, Putting a Stop to Women's Dead-End Work, to explore the mechanics behind this pattern. Who gets asked? Who says yes? And how does awareness become the first step toward equity? What unfolds is a study in attention, how we allocate it, how organizations reward it, and how leaders can make the invisible visible. So this is a conversation that is both about systems and agency. It's about naming something that has long gone unnamed so people can make choices that align with the work they value. And it's about the possibilities that emerge when an entire organization learns to see its hidden labor for what it is. And now, Howard Teibel and Laurie Weingart.
Thank you, Pete. Laurie, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thanks for having me.
All right, I'm going to ask you first a crazy question. Ready?
Okay.
Ready? If you could have one superpower for the day, what would it be?
Extending the day by 8 hours only for me.
And if you could time travel to any time in history.
Where?
Where, when?
I'd go into the future, not the past.
The first time someone said that.
Really?
Yeah, I like you already. So the No Club, Putting a Stop to Women's Dead-End Work. I love this quote back here. A practical, timely guide for bringing gender equity to the workplace. Unburden women's careers from work that goes unrewarded. Can you say what was this an epiphany? Did someone call you one night? How did this come about?
Yeah, so one of my friends, Linda, and also one of my co-authors, sent an email to the rest of us saying that her work life was out of control. And she assumed that the rest of us were having the same problem because we were also successful women in our careers. So she literally sent us an email with a doodle poll that said, when are we going to meet? She knew we'd all say yes. We got together at a restaurant that had $10 bottles of wine. We ordered 2 bottles, and we just started talking. We started talking about our work lives. We started talking about the struggles that we were having in managing our time and all the things we were asked to do, some of which we really didn't want to do or wasn't a good use of our time. But it felt really hard to say no to people because we cared. And that started the No Club, how we could make those decisions about what to say yes and no to.
So you just came off of a keynote that you gave here, and there's so much interesting nuance that you presented. But if you were to summarize the principle here, what is it?
The principle is that all organizations need people to do work that's important for the organization, but doesn't advance your career. Those are called non-promotable tasks. And the problem that we face is that those are not evenly distributed across employees, but women tend to do more of this work than men. And there's only so many hours in a day. And so when women are taking on this extra work, it interferes with their ability to advance in their careers.
You know, you made an interesting comment early on, and I'm glad you said this, which was there's another whole domain around gender, which is sort of an emerging conversation, how we talk about gender. And I'm just curious, how do you answer those questions when people are around this question about gender identity? Have you started thinking about it, or is that part of this, or was this sort of having to investigate that?
We started doing the work before the conversations became more widespread about gender identity. When we started our research, we really did engage in it in a binary way, focusing on men and women.
I love that you said that.
Yeah, that's really important to point out. The type of research we do, which is not just anecdotal, but also broad-based, we need to identify a broad population of people who have either fluid gender identities or are non-binary to get a sense of what their experience is. So I don't know the answer to what their experiences are, and we just need to engage.
Have you gotten any pushback around this?
Yes and no. So I'm going to start with the no. So when I talk to women and I talk to leaders, everybody knows that there are these tasks that aren't promotable. Like that's all, everyone accepts that. And the women understand that they do a lot of this work and probably more than their male colleagues. But it's been so internalized that the women just feel like it's their responsibility and the men feel like it's not theirs. So because of this invisibility and the sense that it's just shared norms and expectations, I get pushback because some men don't believe it's happening, or they think it's a correct solution to the problem, that women should be doing this work because they're better at this work, and it's a nice equilibrium.
Your research and even the conversation today, because I haven't read it yet, because I just heard your talk today and I'm going to read it. What's so fascinating is that there's a role that men have to play in this. Because I'm sitting in the room and you're looking out and there's a lot of men in the room, and it would be too easy for a man looking at this to say, oh, this is a book about women, which is not. Can you say something about this? Because I think this could be easily the thing that has to be talked about more than, because women recognize it and men are like, well, what's my role in this?
Absolutely. The genesis of the book and the genesis of the problem starts with women recognizing the fact that they're doing this. But that's not the way we solve the problem, because what we found in our research is that it's not that women have a hard time saying no. There's nothing endemic in us that says we're just the natural helpers, we should be doing this work. What we learned through our research is it's these shared norms and expectations that lead women to be asked to do this work. So if you unravel this, you realize that who's doing the asking? Everybody's doing the asking, men and women. And if we're going to fix the problem, we have to change how this work is allocated. Who's doing the allocation? Men and women. And we know that we have more men in higher level leadership roles in many organizations. And so we need to engage men in the conversation.
And you made, though, a really great point, which I appreciated, which was, but it's not just men that have that norm. So women in leadership also have that bias. How has this influenced your own way of showing up in situations? You clearly have an awareness now, probably in a way that you never had before, but has it shifted where and how you put your energy?
Absolutely. So once I had a label for the work, it made it much easier to think about what I wanted to say yes and no to, what I wanted to add into my work portfolio or portfolio of tasks that I engage in at work, and how much time I want to allocate to it, and make conscious decisions instead of kind of knee-jerk automatic ones. Because everybody needs to do non-promotable tasks, and I do plenty. But if I can choose the ones that are energizing to me, that bring me joy, that I feel are right for me, then they're not going to be depleting. And that's what I wish for everybody in all organizations, is that we can be smart about who's doing what in terms of this work that we often don't pay attention to, so that we have workers that go home at the end of the day feeling good about how they spent their time, and then also having managers who feel good about how their employees are spending their time, so we can get the most out of them.
There seems to be the tricky part about this is that nuance, which is things that indirectly contribute. And to be able to spot in the moment, is this an opportunity for me to show myself in a certain way, or is it something that really I should be saying no to? I would imagine this would be difficult in the moment to really be aware, because sometimes you don't know whether if you put your hand up to say I'll be in this committee, whether that's going to contribute or not. For me, that's the challenge. But I think what you're speaking to, my guess is, because everybody's looking for a certain form of recognition. When I was listening to you, I was thinking that this is very much about how we can grow in the ways we want to grow. You're putting a spotlight on something that I have seen directly. I led a program, and we teach people about language and how to use language to be effective. And one of the speech acts that we can use is to make an offer. An offer is basically, I offer to take care of a concern. And I had been sharing an anecdote where a senior person in the Navy had a subordinate who offered to bring coffee to the meetings. And the anecdote followed that after that senior person saw that person making offers all the time, that person got promoted because they saw that they were being proactive. But you're speaking to, for women, it's unconscious. And men too. And that women should be more willing to recognize when they're stepping into something that they should assess as non-promotable.
Yeah, I think there's two pieces too. Your example is a really interesting one. So it wasn't volunteering to attend a conference, to give a presentation in your stead when you can't be there. It's volunteering to bring coffee. So that's stereotypically a female task, right? So when a man volunteers to do that, the signal is you're going above and beyond. When a woman volunteers to do that, you're doing your job.
That's it. And then it plays into what I was saying, because then, it looks like you're going above and beyond, then you get promoted.
It won't work for a woman.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So I want to volunteer for things that are not prototypically or stereotypically female. I want to demonstrate my capabilities in a way that will make me stand out as being competent, not warm. I mean, I'm warm. Be warm. We know about this warmth, competence, the two dimensions. Men can easily be both, but women are viewed as either warm or competent, but it's hard, but they tend to be less correlated in the evaluations than for men.
But what are some things men who are in leadership positions or even have colleagues that are women, what can we be doing tangibly to help shift this kind of cultural bias?
So the first thing we can do is join the conversation that men can do and women can do together, to join the conversation about what are the non-promotable tasks that are being done and who's doing them. And let's make sure that they're being distributed equitably.
Just get a shared agreement even about what are non-promotable, what's non-promotable here.
Right.
And can we create a culture? But it doesn't take away the bias that for a man.
But so a bias, the assumption of a bias is that it's subconscious. Let's make it conscious. And then the bias becomes a decision about how we want to work. So once it's no longer subconscious, and we can say, people start recognizing, that's non-promotable. Like I'm in committee meetings or group meetings, and someone stops themselves to ask for a volunteer. That's a change in the behavior. Instead, it's whose turn is it? We change the conversation. And so I think men can really play an important role in that.
In listening to you, this is such an empowering offer to women. What's interesting about it, too, is it doesn't take away from the recognition that you're making that when a man puts his hand up to do something, like bring coffee, is above and beyond. It doesn't change that dynamic, does it? This is not really to address that. It won't address that. What this will address is women having more of a voice about where they're going to put their energy and not.
And men having more of a voice of where they're going to put their energy or not. It goes both ways because the work still has to be done.
Say more about that second part.
Yeah, so as a male colleague or someone who doesn't do a lot of non-promotable tasks, as an individual, we can say to ourselves, it's my opportunity to step up. So let's take some ownership of that. And when I talk to audiences that include men, the majority of the men in the room are like, I had no idea this was happening and I need to take some responsibility. Sure, there's a subset of people who are saying, not my problem, but I think the majority of our male coworkers want to fix this problem and they can join in the solution.
What I love most about this is that you're putting language around something that people don't know how to talk about and that it's got research behind it. Where do you hope to see this go?
My hope for the future is that as people start talking more about non-promotable tasks, leaders and managers will start thinking how to fix the problem systemically. The solution is not for women just to learn how to say no. Although I will say, as I'm handing out books, the majority who won't come to the table are women. And we wrote the book to women because we realize that if you're going to buy a book in a bookstore or from the airport, we need to appeal to people who are suffering. And then they need to communicate it to their management, to their colleagues, and start the conversation. So now the next step is to have organizational leaders sit down and say, we need to change the systems, start paying attention to this work. What are our expectations? Set norms so that it's no longer invisible. It's just part of the day-to-day.
You got some exciting work ahead of you.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
I appreciate the opportunity, Howard. Thank you.